Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to Live at the Waterhole, where first up, we're coming to you live from the Africam Ol Donyo. And this is situated on over 111,000 hectares of private land in the heart of the Chulu Hills between Kenya's Tsavo and Amboseli National Park. So, welcome aboard. What does the bush hold in store for us today? Well, you'll just have to sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and as per usual, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the WildEarth website and registering. Now, very interesting. We've got two big bulls here. The one on the right, who seems to be a little bit older, he was here first. And then we watched just before the show started a bit of a greeting ceremony between them. And they were obviously just working out who's who in the zoo. But it seems like quite a relaxed affair for now. And the reason why I say he does seem a bit older, he's got a little bit of a floppy ear, and he just does seem to be a little bit more gnarly than the elephant on our left, but to his right. So it's not an exact science, but as I say, just with the way that he looks, I'm assuming that he's probably in his late 40s, maybe early 50s or so, and the one on the left there a little bit younger. But they're both getting in their daily intake of water, as well as you can see the one on the right. We have noticed that there is a little bit of geophagia going on here as well, taking in the mineral salts that would be evaporated just on the edges of this particular waterhole. And it's a very well visited waterhole, this. So we can expect a lot of animals coming through here, but we never do know which animals those are going to be. There's also a high prevalence of predators around here, so you do sometimes notice that the animals are quite edgy, but that's just down to the fact that they are staying on their toes because of the predator presence. We don't always see them, very rarely actually, because of the time of the day that we are on the show, but who knows, maybe today's the day. You can see off there in the background just a few clouds around, but it's less than what we've had in the recent past. So hopefully we'll have a nice clear day across all the locations. But that being said, let's go and see what the weather's going to be like. So it seems a lovely hot winter's day across all the locations. We are heading towards the spring equinox. We do say in South Africa we celebrate Spring Day on the 1st, but I think the actual Spring Day is around the 20th, 22nd or so. So that is the true Spring Day. But if today is anything to go by, it's going to be a lovely hot summer. And this here, with all these zebra arriving, you can actually notice how the elephants back off, which is quite interesting. So Tom, yeah, what you're saying, how big these elephants are, it's incredible to see from this particular perspective how looking up from the ground, it definitely puts it into real focus how big these elephants are. But even with them being so big, see how they're backing off as the zebra increase in numbers, which just goes to show that it's not always how big you are, but how many of you there are. This is the only place that I've ever seen this occurring. Normally, elephants will dominate the waterhole. But here in Kenya, I've noticed also in the Mara Triangle, when the migration is underway, which is currently the case, then the numbers of the zebra just push the elephants out of the areas that they do enjoy, and no different here. But if there's anywhere else that you've witnessed this outside of Kenya and in these areas, please let us know, because I'd love to hear it. You don't see it on the other locations that we go to, whether it be the Africam or WildEarth dam cameras. Quite particular of this spot. So Anna Marie, with a lot of these waterholes, and I'd have to say a majority of them, they are all natural waterholes, but they would be reasonably seasonal. So they would dry up at certain times of the year, and sometimes even some years in a row. And then dependent on the rainfall would fill up again. But then what has been done is it's normally a top-up of these natural waterholes. So yes, I would have to say that this is a natural waterhole, but it is topped up and kept at the level that it keeps attracting animals, and not only attracting animals, but also ensuring that they always have a permanent water source to go to. And that's one of the things that we've sort of enabled or done as humans, with us limiting the movements of the animals. We've also then got to make sure that they have sufficient water provision, without them being able to migrate the vast distances that they would normally have done. Even in the likes of Kenya, sometimes it would have moved across even further areas. So they just maintain that permanent water source. You can see that old bull there. He's still got his ears out, trying to make himself look bigger, which means he is intimidated by these zebra, and just trying to move them off a little bit. And a couple of days ago, I actually saw one of the bulls spraying water at the animals as well to shoo them away, which it did, but it didn't last very long. And then they increased in numbers once more, and he backed away.
Are you WildEarth's biggest fan? Well, we have a brand new competition for you. Join our naturalists on Safari Live and listen out for weekly questions. To enter the competition, head over to our Instagram, search #WildEarthFanOfTheMonth and comment your answer under the post. The monthly winner will be determined by the total quickest and most correct answers. We announce our winner at the end of every month. Tune in to Safari Live daily.
And if I'm not mistaken, it was the older bull that did just push that younger one, and as a result, I think also a bit more dominant. But that's not to say that the this alternative bull here closest to us isn't going to challenge him in return. Let's wait and see. So he does seem to be showing a little bit of submission. He hasn't returned the challenge to that big boy and the older guy. And it seems like the zebra have realized the little bit of tenseness between these two, and they've cleared the area. I'm sure they have experience of bulls fighting, and they don't want to be anywhere near them when that happens. There's an age-old African proverb that says when two big bull elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers the most. And that is obviously a reflection of, uh, with humans, that when there's two important men in a village or in a country, you could liken it to kings or politicians. When they have their fights between each other, it's the normal average person or the minions that suffer the most. So, and as a result of him showing a bit of submission, the fight hasn't gone any further. That doesn't mean to say that he won't try at some stage to challenge that other bull, but even though it was quite a slow sort of interaction, there was a bit of aggression in the beginning. And then obviously with that younger bull just putting his penis out a little bit, that is, him also trying in a way to show that he's not completely submissive, but the way he turned his bum to him and walked around the other side of the waterhole, it seems like we know who's in charge here. This male on the right with a bit more of a floppy ear, I think it's probably down to old cartilage getting soft as a result of age. And with that, he's also probably more experienced. He's most likely fought other bulls more regularly and throughout his life. So I think he's the big boy to be concerned of here. And he's just taught that maybe a little bit younger bull a bit of a lesson. All right, so without further ado, this was an amazing interaction between these two bulls, but I'm assuming that they might be around for a little while. So let's pop around to some of our different locations because we have so many. There's so much to do, so little time. But for now, I think let's head on over to Africam Cat Eye. All right, we did have a lovely impala right in front of the camera at Cat Eye, but I think he may have moved off. So we're going to head to Jamala. we've got our eyes on all of the different locations. Sometimes it doesn't always work out. And as you will know, if you watch the sunrise and sunset safaris too, especially with birds, us as naturalists, we often put the bird on the camera, and as soon as they head over to us live, it's just that millisecond before we go live that the bird's flown away. And that was pretty much what happened there with the cat eye. Lovely, nice close up of an impala, but just as we were about to go there, he disappeared. So we would have been looking at the grass. So we decided to move on to Madikwe Game Reserve in the northwest province of South Africa, right on the border of Botswana. And this is a lovely spot as well, where we do get a lot of elephants coming through, but also general game. And in this particular spot, you can see that the wildebeest will be doing similar to what the elephants do at Old Donyo, just next to the waterhole there. There's lots of mineral salts here, and they also do feed on just the remains of the grass, but there's also a lot of taking in of the dirt and what would have been evaporated from this area. So you can assume that this was a much bigger waterhole at some stage, and it's evaporated, leaving a lot of those salts in the soil, and so they come and feed on it. If you're wondering what the wildebeest are doing. It's also a nice area for them to dust bathe, both the zebra and the wildebeest. So they love it here. The elephants also have been feeding on the dirt as well as impala. So seemingly everybody getting in their supplements. There are a few impala as well as kudu coming through in the background there as well. So nice mix of animals here. For me personally, I like to sort of go to different game reserves for the special game that they have there or something unique. And what I like to go to Madikwe for is for the wild dogs. Lots of high concentration of wild dogs and a lovely place to go and view them. And if we're lucky, we may get to see them. We have actually seen them here during the day, just outside of the Waterhole show, unfortunately, but there's every chance that we may see them coming through as well. And Madikwe being a malaria-free game reserve, it's just one of those very special spots to go on and have a safari experience. Obviously, now this time of the year can be some of the most difficult periods for the wildlife. It's sort of at the end of winter. It's starting to get hot now, going into spring, and we almost don't have a spring period in a lot of these parts that we have these dam cameras. It's almost from winter straight to summer, and with the added problem that it's in the dry period, it starts to get very hot. So the quality of the feed for the animals is very low. And then you start to see them doing more and more of what they're doing now, and trying to replace those mineral salts that they are losing. And as the days go on and they're waiting for the rain so that it can rejuvenate the vegetation and bring back a lot of nutrition, we may see the animals concentrating here more and more.
Discover the wonders of the wild with Safari Snaps, Africam's fun community game. While enjoying the live streams, simply tag the animal you spot. Each tag earns you points based on the rarity of the species. The rarer, the more points you score. Your profile and the Safari Snaps leaderboard will keep track of your impressive tagging skills. Join us on Safari Snaps and let's celebrate the wonders of African wildlife together.
So a nice little time spent here at Jamala in the Madikwe Game Reserve, mainly watching these animals performing geophagia, which, as I say, is probably going to be increasing until the rains do finally fall and they're getting in a lot more nutrition. But while we leave these guys eating dirt, I think it's time for us to change of place once again. Let's head on over to the Olifants West Nature Reserve in the Greater Kruger National Park and Africam Naledi Dam. Now, it seems like once again we're having lots of activity from the elephants early on, and that's an indication of how hot it's getting, nice and early in the morning. When it's cold, don't generally see them coming down at this time of the day, more closer to midday when it's getting hotter. But this is going to be more and more so, I think, as we head into summer, the elephants coming down nice and early. I'm not complaining, and I'm sure you aren't either. So there was a bit of drinking going on, and now standing deadly still with the trunks being rested on the ground. It's just an indication they're either having a conversation or they're they may be even having a snooze, which you can find elephants will stand up and sleep, and particularly so when you see them resting the trunk like that. It does indicate that it's a bit of a respite, a rest period. The other one seemingly a little bit more active, but I would probably lean towards more of them having a chat. You can just see from the signs as well that there's a lot of elephant activity around this waterhole. There is also lots of predators here, high concentrations of hyena, leopard, lion. But as I say, with it being quite hot today as well, we've got a much bigger chance of seeing the likes of elephant than we do of any of those predators. But you never do know. And there, just hanging his trunk over his tusk, maybe making space for the other one to come in and have a drink. Maybe not too happy to share the water hole. Another elephant moving through in the background there as well. It all seems to be bulls. These two that we hear initially, young bulls, this one in particular, and obviously younger than that one that was standing in front. So maybe that's exactly what was going on. Just waiting his turn, and the other one just enforcing his dominance. So we may see here, oh, they seem of similar age, these two. So maybe they'll share it this time. So all rather orderly, but that last one that moved in didn't seem to want to have a drink. But it seems like now they're all moving off. So lovely to have an elephantastic morning, and I think the theme is going to continue. But with them having left here, I think we'll do the same. Let's go and catch up with those bulls at Old Donyo. So nice here back at Old Donyo, and it seems at least these two have settled their differences, and they're both drinking at the Waterhole, whether their differences are settled or not. They're at least tolerating each other, and the zebra in the background at least giving them a chance now to drink. But Maasai giraffe will always have to wait their turn, and you'll see normally pretty nervous coming in here with good reason. But they seem to be a little bit down on the pecking order coming into the Waterhole. And the giraffe always seem to act as the sentries, looking out from a lovely height. And it's a good alarm signal for the rest of the animals as well. If they haven't picked up on the smell or the sounds, well, at least the sight from the giraffe is going to pick up an imposing predator. Quite a bit of bird activity as well, mostly ringneck doves. I haven't seen any other species for now, but I'm going to keep my eye out. I'd love to see different birds. So you can see the giraffe want to drink, but they just want to make sure as well. And particularly looking off to the left of the camera, I'm not quite sure what they are seeing or thinking they may be seeing, but regardless, they're making sure.
on Woodbury Lodge's episode of Destination Safari.
I'm so used to views I forget to mention it sometimes. Underfloor heating in the bathrooms, air conditioning, all those luxury items.
Dinner is a full three-course meal, starter, main and dessert.
Early morning drive, and on that drive you might see some slightly different things, some rare things.
Destination Safari, bringing luxury safari travel to the world.
So it's always interesting to note, and you see these giraffe now finally getting a chance to come in for a drink, the awkward nature that they need to get their necks down to actually drink. And it is as a result of their neck not being long enough to reach the ground. Their legs are too long, and the neck lock not compensating enough. And that seems a little bit strange to evolve in this manner, making it so awkward for them to be able to drink. It always makes you wonder. And Darwin was the first to propose that long necks evolved in giraffe because they enabled the animals to eat foliage beyond the reach of shorter browsers. That seemingly sensible explanation is held up for over a century, but it's probably wrong, says Robert Simmons, And Simmons, a behavioral ecologist at the Ministry of Environment and Tourism in Windhoek, Namibia, believes giraffes developed long necks not to compete for food, but in fact to win mates. Simmons was studying eagles in the Sabi Sand Reserve in South Africa in the Greater Kruger National Park when he happened to come upon a pair of male giraffes locked in combat. The male giraffes battle for mates by swinging their powerful necks, which can be over 6 feet long and weigh more than 200 pounds. The momentum generated allows them to slam their heads into their opponents with vertebra shattering and occasionally lethal force. In these contests, males with the longest, thickest necks usually prevail. As Simmons watched the fight, he became convinced that this competition for mates, not stretching for treetop food, was what drove the evolution of the neck. If competition for food had spurred the elongation, says Simmons, then you would expect giraffes to graze mainly from tall acacia trees, now fertilia, beyond the reach of other savanna inhabitants. But giraffes feed mostly with their necks bent along low bushes. Moreover, their short stubby horns probably evolved to better concentrate the force of their head blows in doing what we call necking. So I think that that's actually probably more so the reason why giraffes have evolved these elongated necks in the very important function of reproduction and the competition between males, and as a result, the one that's going to get the most females. Now, as per usual, if you have been watching the show, especially when I'm here narrating, you might notice that I like to bring in something different each day, or concentrate on some kind of topic. And since I've started with giraffe, well, let's keep the theme going. And a little bit of a mythological legend or Bushman stories. The Khoisan always have wonderful reenactments of or ideas and stories of how things actually happened back in the day. And a nice story here is a long, long time ago when the heavens and earth were created. The story goes that there was a purpose for all animals except for giraffe. And giraffe had noticed it too, which made him really sad. Giraffe wanted to be useful just like all the other animals, but he had no real skills to set him apart from the rest. He was always staring up at the sky and was tall and clumsy. But one day they realized that Giraffe could indeed be very useful because he was so tall and always staring at the sky. You see, the sun was often getting lost in the heavens, bumping up and down, and it needed someone to guide it along its path. So Giraffe was put to work watching the sun and guiding it around the sky. All day and all night, Giraffe stared up at the sky, guiding the sun in the right direction, making sure that the sun never lost its way again. Giraffe was very happy to finally have a purpose, and he did such a good job that in honor of him, some stars were rearranged in the sky so that they would always point in the direction of the sun. And for us, this constellation is known as the Southern Cross. But a long, long time ago, it was known as Giraffe. So So when you look up at the sky, take a moment to find the Southern Cross, and remember that even though you might not realize it, everybody has something that sets him or her apart, even giraffe. So, and that goes even further, that the Bushmen or the Khoi Sand people actually call the Southern Cross, that constellation, Tutwa, which means giraffe, and it's used, for navigation. In Sotho, Tswana, and Venda traditions, these stars are Ditulwa, the giraffes. The bright stars of the crux are male giraffe, and the two pointers are female. The Venda called the faintest stars of the Southern Cross Tudana, which means the little giraffe. They also say that the month Kubvemudzi begins when the crescent moon can be seen for the first time, and at the same time the lower two giraffe stars are just below the horizon and the upper two are just visible. And the Sotho law tells that when the giraffe stars are seen close to the southwestern horizon just after sunset, they indicate the beginning of cultivating season. So also a big part of their planning as traditional farmers. You can just see that this big old bull here with a little bit of a floppy ear really commands respect, as that seemingly subordinate bull is very careful around him. Right, so a wonderful time spent here with these massive bulls, and of course those very tall giraffe finally getting in for a drink. But let's switch of place and let's head back to Jamala. Where we've still got lots and lots of animals here. It seems like the zebra have increased in number now and joining their compatriots in the area. I'm sure there'll be a bit of dust bathing going on and lots of eating of soil.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to capture a snapshot of wildlife in its magnificence? Our naturalist, James Henry, has spent his life creating memories through the lens, and he wants to share them with you.
From the sublime to the ridiculous, everybody.
Join James for a photography hangout where he will entertain you with safari stories through some of his best photographs and color grade them live. Come along for the fun. Wild Earth, it's in your nature.
So, seeing as we were chatting about the giraffe, and let's keep it obviously pertinent to what's in frame. And we often get questions about the migrations in the Masai Mara, the Serengeti between Tanzania and Kenya, etc. And with us now looking at these two particular species, I just want to read you an excerpt from Jeff Wendorf, who speaks on the wildebeest and zebra migrations and their myths and facts. So, the wildebeest migration is a fascinating example of extreme animal behavior in the animal kingdom. And if you're a fan of wildlife, you probably know a few things about the phenomenon often called the greatest show on earth. But you also likely have some of it wrong. The Great Migration is the biggest animal herd in the world. Myth: the migration is vast, consisting of over 2 million animals. Wildebeest make up 75% of the host. The migration is not one herd. Numerous megaherds loosely travel together in a perpetual search for water and green grass. Now, the truth: the migration is the largest and longest, it's about 800 kilometers, land migration of mammals on the planet. The oldest and smartest wildebeest lead the migration. Myth: there are no leaders of the migration. They follow the rains to green grasslands. They will then devour 4,000 tons of grass, and once they strip an area clear, the migration continues. Zebra make more decisions about the direction of travel. A zebra's sense of smell and memory is better than the wildebeest, so they guide the groups to water. The migration has been going for 1,000 years. Myth: for reasons not yet known, the migration did not begin until the 1960s. Now, I see so many predators taking a massive toll on the migration that must be hard on the population. Truth: about 250,000 wildebeest and 30,000 zebra will fall to predators on and during the migration. Wildebeest have unique adaptations to survive that many deaths. Even though there are 3,000 lions in the Serengeti, there is safety in numbers. Wildebeest produce more calves than predators can eat. 8,000 wildebeest are born per day during 2 weeks of calving. 500,000 wildebeest are born during the migration. Baby wildebeest are remarkable athletes, and they can stand in 2 to 3 minutes, and they can run with the herd in 5. Within 24 hours, a baby wildebeest can outrun a lion. That is incredible. And there's quite a few youngsters there as well. You can always see them very easily with those very short, straight up pointed horns. They haven't quite melted off down the side or just on top of their heads. They're still straight up and pointy. So even though the quality of the food around now is probably getting pretty low, and that's a knock-on effect of what we're seeing, why they are feeding on the dirt here, but it's important to note that especially the wildebeest still look in great condition. And when you sort of score the condition of an animal, it's normally out of 5. 5 being almost overweight, 4 being closer to perfect. Between 3 and 4 is normally the perfect condition where they're not too fat, and you can see a little bit of the ribs and maybe even the hip bone, but you don't want to see much of it at all. As soon as you go down to 2 and 1, that's when the bones are showing, and you can see then really they're in terrible condition, 0 being dead. So these animals I would put at probably around a 3. So not looking in bad shape at all. It's difficult to note with the zebra because they always look fat. Even if their condition is really low, you can almost only tell by their hip bones showing. But their stomachs will always be bloated, and that's as a result of the gas that is produced from the fermentation process in their digestive system. Wildebeest, much easier to work out their condition, and for now it's still great, but as the months progress, if there's no rain forthcoming, we may see this condition dropping. So all we can do is hope that the rains don't take too long to come, and then obviously they'll survive this period very easily. If it doesn't, we're going to have to start seeing the dropping off of a lot of the weaker within the groups themselves.
Do you want to touch the lives of future protectors of our Earth? Thanks to our wonderful WildEarth explorers, WildEarth Kids is back. Sign your class up for WildEarth schools and enjoy a special virtual field trip to Africa with interactive learning tailored for kids.
Very warm welcome to the kids from WildEarth Primary School.
We'll be dedicating the first hour of Sunset Safaris every Wednesday to our planet's future defenders. WildEarth, it's in your nature.
So our mission here at WildEarth is to connect the world with nature. And if you'd like to help us in our quest, you can go onto the WildEarth website and click donate. And every little bit helps. So with us now also getting a nice close-up on these wildebeest, there's an old African legend that when all the animals were created, there were a few body parts left over. And so the wildebeest was created using buffalo horns, a locust's head, a cow's body, and a lion's tail. And because there were also some goat's legs left over, those were used too. They say a locust's head. I still firmly believe both the black and the blue wildebeest look more like they've got the face of a bat. So, and just something fun is, you hear a lot of people talking about spirit animals and what their spirit animal is. Well, with wildebeest, the symbolism and meaning, the wildebeest got its name because of the visual menacing impact that it has on an initial encounter with the creature. An enormous head, sharp horns, tasseled mane, and pointed beard come together, delivering an intimidating profile to the wildebeest and beholders. Their physical characteristics do well for keeping many predators away, but it's a ruse. When faced with an enemy, wildebeest prefer running to rumbling, giving them associations with pacifism and clear evasion. Living only in eastern Africa from Namibia to Kenya, wildebeest prefer the savanna and plains. And the annual migration occurs in large numbers, while the large group of wildebeest search for dry land. During their migration, zebra and gazelle join in the trek, lending strength in numbers. Here, wildebeest represent travel, adventure, continuous movement, and finding safety and strength by working within the larger community. So, Lenny, thanks for your comment and thanks for the nice words. Yeah, it's always nice to get a little bit of compliments, especially when I don't get so many from my wife. So, thanks, Lenny. Appreciate it. Now, going further on these stories while we're sitting watching these guys, as I say, I just like delving into all sorts of different things with some fact, some fiction, not always keeping it too serious. But the ancient Greeks thought wildebeest was a cross between a buffalo and a boar. The stories suggest wildebeest did something terrible in the past, so the gods cursed the creature, causing the animal to look downward. If they look up, law suggests the wildebeest gaze can turn you into stone. Pliny the Elder had a far more scientific insight for why the creatures seem to gaze downward, and the wildebeest's stature comes from adaptation. Here, wildebeest symbolizes maintaining a sharp focus and the notion of keeping one's nose to the grindstone. The wildebeest gaze also gives the animals close ties to the earth element and the symbolism of grounding. As you can see, lots of grounding going on here. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that bird calling in the background might be a white-crowned shrike. But if you think differently, let me know. I'm going to keep listening to it and see if I can get 100% confirmation. So also just apologies there. There is a bit of sound of human presence there in the background. There is a bit of work going on at the lodge itself, and that would be near to the viewing platform. So quite a few of these different locations are centered at the lodge, or in the case of Etosha, that's also at a public viewing site. So we often do hear some human activities. Not always what we hear here with a bit of construction, but it can happen at the different locations, just for an understanding. Righty, with that having been said, we've spent some good time here with these zebra and wildebeest, all eating dirt. So let's change of place and let's go to somewhere new. Let's go to the Great White Place, aka Etosha and Okokuyu. Where we've also got some wildebeest, blue wildebeest, but also joined with lots of springbok. On the opposite side there, I think that's zebra. And hopefully we get some oryx and impala, kudu, and if we're lucky, even some elephants. It is a little bit later on in the morning, but early in the morning you always get the Namakwa sandgrouse and ringneck doves coming in for a drink, and in the case of the Namakwa sandgrouse, also the males in particular, soaking their feathers, flying up to 50, 60 kilometers away for the babies to extract the water off their feathers. Wonderful adaptation for living in a water-scarce environment, because they're actually descendants of a family of waterfowl. But the Namakwa sandgrouse in particular making its home in arid areas, and so have adapted phenomenally well to survive in a, you would think, a completely different environment from a waterfowl to deserts, but they still then have those evolutionary traits which enable that. There comes an oryx. Oryx gazella, different to the oryx that you'll see at Oldonyo in Kenya. Those are endangered species, the fringe-eared or the East African oryx there. This is what we would call the Southern African oryx, the old name also South African oryx, common oryx, Oryx gazella. Doesn't look like there's a breath of wind for now, so which is always good for the people and the animals there. Makes conditions great. Now, seeing as we were watching some oryx or gemsbok there, they've just moved off, but I'm sure we're going to see lots more of them. This is one of the best places in the world to view oryx or gemsbok. And there's an African myth that explains the relationship between the ostrich and the gemsbok, seeing as we do find them in very similar habitats. And if this tale is to be believed, then in the beginning, the gemsbok was a drab color and had no horns, while the ostrich had magnificent plumage and two slender horns. The gemsbok was envious of the ostrich and challenged it to a race. Not only will I beat you, but I will even carry your horns and your plumage as a handicap. Being a wily antelope, it chose a path along which the ostrich could not run, and thus ran away with both the plumage and the horns. At first the ostrich was upset by the loss of the horns, but eventually grew used to not having to worry to carry them around, and once its feathers grew back, it was happy with the new look. For a long time the two did not see each other, but when they once again met, both were happy with how they looked and decided to never fight again. And that is why, to this very day, the two can be found living side by side. You can hear the little shrill call of the little grebes that are resident on the water. I'm still very surprised and fascinated how they survive here, because there's little to no food for them, but there's obviously enough, otherwise they would have left already. And off in the distance, a giraffe making its way through. This being the southern giraffe, different to the Maasai giraffe, not as big. And in Namibia, you also get the Damara giraffe, or the Angolan giraffe, as it's also called, which is one of the smaller giraffes that you do get. That lives out in the Damara land and into Koko land and up into Angola, hence the name. So in the same sort of region where you get the desert adapted elephants, as well as lions, black rhino, spotted hyena, who generally would be the apex predator, and the lions even scavenge off them. Lots of brown hyena as well, but a very particular part of the desert that those giraffes survive in, and very rocky areas as well. So giraffe don't tend to normally do very well in rocky areas because they can very easily trip and break bones. But you also see them surviving here in Etosha, where this calcrete must be quite hindering for them as they walk through it. But they do generally then use the game paths created mostly by the elephants, but then used by all the other animals as well. And in so doing, then makes it a little bit easier for them to walk in this very rocky environment. Alrighty, so nice. We'll also stop here at Okokuyo. Let's wait and see. Maybe there'll be more animals coming through. I'm sure there will. So we'll come back here at some stage. But for now, I think let's head on over to Cat's Eye. And this is in the Olifants West Nature Reserve as part of the Greater Kruger National Park. And once again, we've got a massive elephant. So this perspective is quite similar to that of Old Donyo. Not quite as low to the ground, but still a wonderful way to look at things. Now this camera is, as I said, the positioning is great, but we often have elephants and other curious animals actually inspecting the camera. So I think earlier we had the impala that just walked past. I don't know if it looked up at the camera, but that is normal. And sometimes there's even hyenas that put their mouths over the camera. So it seems to be quite a popular camera for the animals, and the mic is very popular for the animals to sit on, and sometimes get sound of that on the camera. So these are all things to look forward to. We haven't spent too much time here because there hasn't been too much activity for now, but that might all change. And there's a possibility for the whole of the big five: wild dogs, spotted hyena, civets, large and small spotted genets, as this guy now sprays the water, and a number of different animals, but mainly those ones would be during the night. I think we'll just enjoy this now for a little while. There are some impala off there in the background, just off to the right. You might just see them standing up there in the shade. Obviously our star here being the elephant, nice and close. He looks like he's got a little hole in his ear, so that would be one way of identifying him. Looks like he may have had an earring at some stage. And a terrapin just making his way out of the water. Maybe he got a fright when that elephant sprayed the water, so he's getting out the way.
Not everyone gets excited to hear a leopard chuff, spot a pangolin, or see a real impala rut. But if you are wild about the wild, you can become part of a community of like-minded nature lovers and share authentic wildlife experiences with the world. Join the Explorers Club and you will also enjoy the many benefits that come with it too. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
So you see, for me, probably one of the most important things to understand when you're out in the bush, especially out on trail, would be ethology or animal behavior, and just understanding what animals do, and then they might do something else next. So just seeing that head shake and the way that he backed up was a good indication that there was another elephant around. And just from watching his body language, I said that, I predicted that, and guess what? That's exactly what happened. So it's important for those kind of things because you can also put yourself in wonderful positions for wildlife encounters. Looks like a bit of a mud bath is also in order. It just shows how hot it is as well, that they will be wanting to cool off. And here's another. Looks like a bull as well. Maybe a little bit more dominant than these other two. You saw how quickly this guy in the foreground walked away, and there was no head shaking going on there. So I think he's subordinate to the new arrival. We seem to be right in the direct line of fire from this guy. He may quite easily throw mud on the lens. And you can see all the important parts being targeted with the mud. Behind the ears, under the belly, over the top of the back, and then up the sides. But generally under the belly, behind the ears, probably the two most important. And then they go up the top of the back and on the sides. Yeah, we nearly got hit there with that mud. So, Stefan Rousseau, you're asking about the swinging leg. So, generally, if they're standing in this position, there's nothing really sort of going on. It's just a normal bodily function. They're just carrying on with whatever they're doing. Oh, I think we nearly got hit there. I can't help but hope that we do get hit by mud. So sorry for the technical guys behind the scenes, but I think it's awesome when mud comes flying at the screen. But yes, back to the question. When an elephant is standing and there's another elephant nearby, and so they are reasonably engaged with each other, that kind of swinging leg is a pensive, thought-provoking action from the elephant. So it can mean that he himself is thinking about something or is provoking a reaction from an alternative elephant. And we would always say when we're out on foot and we're confronted with an elephant, a swinging leg like that is an indication of an imminent charge. So it is a reasonably aggressive sort of sign from the elephant, but it all requires perspective, what the elephant is currently faced with, or the situation that it finds itself in at the time of swinging that leg. So, for instance, I can punch the sky in jubilation when my rugby team wins the Rugby World Cup, or I can punch the sky in madness because I've just stood on a thorn for the fourth time. So a similar kind of bodily function could mean multiple different things, and as I say, it's normally a pensive, thoughtful movement, but it can mean aggression. It can also mean play. And I think he's got the waterhole now back to himself. Is that the last we're going to see of him? It looks like he's following in behind the other two bulls that left. A couple of starlings moving in behind him, seeing if there's any insects to be grabbed and eaten up that would have been bumped up by the elephant. So that's seemingly it, except for these starlings moving around in the foreground. I think we'll keep up the theme of going wherever there is the most action. And now it's surprise, surprise at Old Donyo. Where these guys are really, really thirsty. They've been here for quite some time, since the start of the show, particularly this guy with a bit of a floppy ear, I think as a result of age. But I think they've finished their drink. Now it's time, as with the others there in the Olifants West Reserve at Cat Eye, it's time to cool down. Now, Steve B, you're asking around how can we tell if one elephant is subordinate, if they're all on an equal pegging? Steve D. Now, you generally won't, if they are on equal terms, and one approaches the other, you normally see them get into a bit of a fight, and then it will be pushing and shoving, and a bit of sort of tusk poking, but it will be head to head. It doesn't always happen that one walks up to a waterhole and they immediately go into a fight if they are sort of on level terms. But if there's any kind of aggression shown from one, then it may sort of increase the situation into that point. Now, when we started out, a good example was the bull with the floppy ear. He was standing there, and then the other one approached, and immediately he turned around and he faced the incoming or the newcomer, and then that one sort of walked away from him and around the side. So already showing a bit of subordinate behavior towards the bull that was there first, and then drank from an alternative side. He was avoiding conflict, but then as the zebra came in, they sort of had to move closer and closer to each other, and then the bull with the floppy ear, he sort of didn't charge the other one, but he nudged it with its head and the tusks, and that one then shifted away. If that alternative bull was not subordinate, he would have returned the favor and faced up to him, and there would have been a bit of a tug of war, but head to head. So they push each other, and then you can see who eventually becomes the winner. Sometimes it can escalate. Sometimes it stops just as quickly as that one did, with the obviously subordinate one showing that subordinate behavior and calming the situation. If there's no response like that, and a response is aggressive, it then can escalate. When we saw there at Cat Eye, we saw the first bull. He obviously saw another bull coming in, smelled him, saw him, and thought he's going to be dominant. So he shook his head, and when the other one arrived, he sort of showed that he is dominant there, but the other one didn't show any aggression towards that, so it was de-escalated once more. The third one arriving seemed to be even dominant there as well, and so then the other two, just moved out the way. So it's very subtle sometimes, but other times you can really see it very easily where one imposes its dominance. We also did see it there at Naledi Dam. There were some youngsters, all of them having a little bit of dominance displays between them, but it seemed like it was very easily sorted out. Those were young bulls, but they show exactly the kind of behavior.
Discover the wonders of the wild with Safari Snaps, Africam's fun community game. While enjoying the live streams, simply tag the animal you spot. Each tag earns you points based on the rarity of the species. The rarer, the more points you score. Your profile and the Safari Snaps leaderboard will keep track of your impressive tagging skills. Join us on Safari Snaps and let's celebrate the wonders of African wildlife together.
So it looks like all our elephants have left now. Who's going to be next? Is this fringe-eared oryx going to brave it and come in for a drink? We have to wait and see. You can see the level of nervousness is always higher when you're on your own. If there are more animals here, there won't be as much nervousness. We see it from all the different animals. It's not exclusive to giraffe being nervous, but even the giraffe, when there's more of them about, they are more comfortable to move in and go for a drink a lot quicker. We might see similar behavior from it now as with the oryx. It's going to be very careful indeed. And if you think about what I was chatting about earlier, in the fact that there are scientists that refute sort of Darwin's initial thinking of that giraffe evolved long necks to be able to feed higher up in the trees. Um, Obviously that might have assisted them in getting more nutrition. However, the males with the longer necks would have been beating up the other males that had shorter necks, and using that pendulum to smack them and so on. So the longer the neck, the better the weapon, and the more females you would be able to have for mating. So it's a much easier way to understand evolution if you understand that the bigger, stronger, taller males would have been passing on their genes, and so that line would then have continued. And that's a good way of illustrating evolution in general. The longer the neck, the better the weapon, the more the girls, the females. And so that genetic would then pass on, and then the next generation would have had a similar thing. The one, and they all would have been from that particular male. They all would have been taller, but there would have been one in amongst them, or a couple in amongst them, that would have been taller than the rest. And so that genetic line will then get passed through. So, and that's how it continues, and that's how evolution works in general. So the giraffe now increasing in numbers. Seems like they've seen their gap. There's no more elephants. There's no more big numbers of zebra. They seem to all be moving off in the background there. So now they're all moving in. Oh, the giraffe. A couple of hitchhikers there on the back of the giraffe. One in particular, and those being the red-billed oxpeckers.
Those sounds just go straight through you.
So, for any new viewers who have just joined us, hello and welcome to Live at the Waterhole. We're at Jamala in the Madikwe Game Reserve of the Northwest Province of South Africa. My name is Ralph Kirsten, and what a morning we've had so far. We've been all over the place, from Okokoyo in the Etosha National Park of Namibia, where we had lots of general game there, and of course oryx and springbok swimming. We've also been at of course Old Donyo, the African camera there in Kenya, with lots of elephant activity, giraffe, zebra, as per usual. We've also been to Naledi Dam, where there were elephants as well, with it being very hot today. I think definitely heading towards summer. So lots of the elephants down early, having a drink, having a swim. That was also evident at Cat Eye, also in the Olifants West Nature Reserve of the Greater Kruger National Park. And so it's just been a great day so far. What does the rest hold in store for us? Well, you'll just have to sit back, relax, and enjoy the last half an hour of the show. And while you do that, please don't forget that this is a live and interactive experience, so we'd love for you to jump on board with us and send us through your questions and your comments. You can do that by going on the WildEarth website and registering. Seems that one giraffe wanting to have a drink there, but there's a bit of an incline down to the water. So if it does manage to drink there, it's going to be an almighty feat, because it's difficult enough as it is when they're level with the water, I mean on foot level. But there, you're adding an extra half a meter or so. So it would have been interesting, but it seems like it's decided against it. And it seems like some kind of decision was made that drinking time is over. But surprise, surprise, here come the elephants. Quite a few of them snuck in, I think, while we were watching those giraffe. I saw just a sign of one, and then as the other one, this new one came in, it was evident there were others there. Just the way it was body language was showing that there are other elephants around. But you're going to see, obviously, the dominance from this big bull that moves in. You see how the other two back away. So this is how we see subordinate behavior, particularly between the bulls. And that was very easy to see because you've got an obviously dominant bull. He's bigger and older than those two younger bulls. And so that was simple as they backed away, showing subordination, no problem.
Do you love relaxing at a waterhole with the sights and sounds of Africa all around you? Well, we have some really exciting news for you. From August 1st, Africam is joining forces with WildEarth to bring the majesty of Africa right into your living room with 9 incredible new waterhole cameras from across South Africa and Kenya. Get ready to embark on a new journey. This is Live at the Waterhole.
So it seems a milling about of what I believe is mostly bulls, the elephants here. Everybody just having a drink and then hanging about. There'll probably be a bit of geophagia coming from them as well. with two zebra fighting off in the background there as well. This seems to be a proper fight with them. It's most likely two stallions trying to assert their dominance as well. So today's also been a little bit about dominance between the elephants and now with the zebras too. And you can have, as I said previously, lots of conflict around water holes because this is where the animals are forced to sort of join up, where away from the water they don't necessarily have to come into each other's paths, but it's a concentration of particularly the males next to the water, and that's when these conflicts arise. You see, it's a tactic that the zebra employ. They try to bite each other's feet. And so you then see them going down onto their ankles and avoiding those bites. But then they sort of go for each other's necks, and they also go for tails, and lots of kicking can happen. It's quite incredible the levels of fury that zebra can show towards each other. So this young elephant coming now, I don't know if this is going to end too well. If a bull's getting a little bit too boisterous with that youngster, you might see the females now ganging up on him. Shame, the little youngster just wanted to get in and have a drink, but the big bull, he's got other thoughts. Wow, nice big jump there from the impala as they run through. A bit of vocalizing there from the elephants. I think it's probably from the breeding herd that's arrived, maybe in protest to these boisterous bulls. You can see that little youngster, he's just sneaking a drink in under that bull, but he's quite nervous, and whenever the bull moves towards him, he backs away. So it's just fascinating to watch. And there's a lone blue wildebeest off in the background there, just getting some shade, maybe a bit of a snooze as well. So, Spence, you say that predators are so unnecessary. I'm sure that's tongue in cheek because, to be fair, there's been a lot of sort of scientific research that actually shows that apex predators such as wolves, tigers, lions, and the rest all actually keep the prey species in a healthy generational situation, because if there's no predators, you actually have stagnation within the herds, and it can actually culminate in there being a drop off or die off in their numbers as well, and the social structures aren't as strong, etc. So predators are extremely important, not only for taking off the sick and the weak and keeping natural selection at play, but even just the health of those surviving herds need the pressure from predators to remain healthy. And predators have been around for such a long time that the animals have evolved so far that they actually require them to maintain a real health within the groups.
Did you know that the WildEarth team makes weekly behind the safari content? Would you like to get to know the WildEarth family better? See how we live.
This is Igor's bedroom.
Learn about our production process. And see the antics that happen off camera. Sign up to be an explorer and you will get access to all this content and more.
So it's always interesting with elephants, particularly when you've got them joining up like this next to a waterhole. There's obviously interesting dynamics here. There's some young bulls, there's one or two older bulls, and then the females with the youngsters. The youngsters trying to get in for a drink. Obviously, that's why the breeding herd is here. The bulls as well, but they seem to have done that part of, the activity. And there seems to be a lot of socializing going on, lots of standing around still, and resting of the trunk on the ground. I think it's an opportunity for them to have conversations about whatever they would want to talk about. And this is like a meeting point. Whether you would like to call it a internet cafe or the kind of train station, anywhere where you have concentrations of people coming together and then conversations happening from there. This is very similar with elephants, but their common denominator being the water, and that's what draws them all towards the same spot. So it's always interesting to see the greetings, and the behavior with each other, and obviously the discussions that we're not a part of because our ears don't pick up that low frequency. But just looking at their body language and their interactions is fascinating enough. And with that being said, obviously we are slowly heading towards the end of the show, and I think the elephants today have absolutely blown it away. So we hope for more of the same. I'm sure there is going to be more of the same in the coming days and months as we head into summer, and it's going to get very hot. And hopefully we'll also see the advent of rain, and we're going to see a completely changed environment in the likes of here at Jamala. I think the animals really need it, with more and more of them performing geophagia and eating of the soil, getting in their supplements. So that being said, don't forget that later on today there's going to be the sunset safari starting from 2:30, and then tomorrow morning there will be the sunrise safari starting at 6:30. So please join us for that, and then of course there will be the live at the Waterhole once more at 9:30. It won't be me, but you'll have to wait and see who it's going to be. I will be back at some stage, but that's it from me for now. I hope you've all enjoyed the show. It's not quite over just yet, as this male is giving us some antics here. But regardless of that, my name is Ralph Kirsten. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.